All right, so statistics, big fan of statistics being a baseball guy. I have all these scores listed below. Now to find the mean, the mean is an average. Okay, you add up all of your quantities, so I did that right here, and then you divide it by the total number of quantities. So in this case, there were 7 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I add all these together, I divide it by 7. I got 581 on top, divided by 7, and that gives me an average or a mean of 83. Now I need to know if I had one more test and I wanted to have an average of 85, what would I need to add to 581 to get there? So what I did down here is I set up, I need 85 as my mean, and I'm going to have 8 tests. I need to see what my total scores added together would be, and it would be 680. So when I take the 680 of my 8 tests, and I subtract the 581 of my 7 tests, I get 99. So 99 is what I have to add to this, get another score, in order to have an average of 85, of at least 85. So my correct answer was 99, not 83, 89, or 93. So here we have some more statistics. Okay, the range would be the maximum minus the minimum. All right, now again, we have to understand what these mean. This is hours of playing a game per week, and it's from 20 people. So each of these dots, this is where the 20 comes in. There's 20 of them. All right? Each dot represents a person. So this person played for 9 hours a week. This person also played for 9 hours a week. Does not mean that there was 18 hours played by one person, and that's going to be the max. The max is only 9. 9 is the highest number plotted. 2 is the lowest number plotted. So this person only did 2. So my range would be 9, my max, minus 2, my minimum, giving me 5 hours. Now, the median is when I put numbers in order from least to greatest as they are on a line plot, which is why we like line plots to represent data, I can see where the very middle of the row is. So what I can do on line plots is I can simply cross off my dots from the highest and the lowest, one at a time. So there's high, there's my next lowest, there's my next highest, there's my next lowest, and I'm going to keep doing that until I get to my last one, which is right here, and that's at 5 as well. So my range and my median are both 5 hours. All right, so I got a good argument for this question, and I'll get to that as I go. But it says that popcorn is $2.50 for small bags, $4.25 for large bags, and on Monday, the ratio of small bags to large was 3:2. So 3 represents the small bags, 2 represents the large bags. So the store sold an average of 6 large bags each hour. Okay, so every hour, this large bag should be at 6. Okay, so if I move this to 6, that's times 3. Then I have to take this number of the ratio times 3, because to find equivalent ratios, we multiply both numbers by the same factor, and 3 times 3 is 9. So 6 bags would be 9 bags of the small, and 6 times 425, I'm sorry, let's keep moving on, that's not true. I moved this to 48 by doing times 8. I moved this to 72 by times 8 for this question. But let's now look at these. The store sold an average of 7 small bags of popcorn each hour. Well, that is completely false because it just said 6, right? And sorry, 6 was the large bags. This does say small bags, so I need to read more carefully. But if this was 6 and keeping the 3:2 ratio, it would be 9. So I did this one for here. So it should have been 9. They said 7, therefore it's false. Now this one said they sold a total of 120 small bags and large bags of popcorn in 8 hours. So if I had 8 hours, which would be my ratio, which would be 1 hour, right? 9 to 6 was 1 hour. Multiply each by 8 to keep the ratio. I get 72 and 48. If I add 72 and 48, I didn't even finish because I realized it was going to be 120. That makes this true. Now this is my argument. It said the store made $24 more from selling large bags than small bags. Now, if I assume they were only open 8 hours, which nowhere in the problem does it say that the entire day was only 8 hours. This problem simply says in 8 hours they sold this much, but they could have been open 10 hours. They could have been open 15 hours. I don't know. So I put a star next to it because this is like an argument question. If somebody says it's not true because of my argument that we don't know how long they were open and therefore we can't calculate the exactness of this unless we knew that information, then it would be false. But if we do believe that it was 8, all right? It was 8 hours that they were open. What I have to do is take my 48 large bags, multiply it by 425, I get 204. I take my 72 small bags in 8 hours, multiply it by 250 per bag, I get $180. And when I subtract that, I do get 24. So I marked true because I think that whoever came up with this test is trying to play off this one. But I would argue that they did not give us sufficient information to make this claim with evidence of knowing how long they were actually open the entire day. All right, I love these kinds of questions, especially when we're talking about politics, right? So if there were 450 students who voted, right, I make a little line, what do we call these? Tape diagram. I make a tape diagram at 450 students being my total, okay? And then on the bottom side, I split it into 60-40, right? 60%, which would leave me 40% because this would be 100%. So at 100% of the votes, that'd be 450 kids. All right, that should make sense there. And at 60 and 40, I notice that I can break those up. I can break 450 up by fives, and I can break 100% by fives. So when I do that, my percentages would be 20, 40, 60, 80, 100%. And my students would be 90, 180, 270, 360, 450 students, okay? So if I had 60%, which would be these three boxes, 90 plus 90 plus 90, would be 270 students, all right? Now it said that 7 votes out of every 8 were received by Aiden. So he was receiving less votes, okay? So if 270 is my total votes, that means that my 7-to-8 ratio, which is a total of only 15 votes, if I'm just going to simplify it as much as possible, would need to become a new ratio based on how many total votes. So if my total is 15, I need my total to become 270, because that's how much 60% is. To get from 15 to 270, I have to multiply by 18. I figured that out over here by dividing 270 by 15, and I got 18. That's the divisional gap right here. So if I multiply the total by 18, I also have to multiply both sides of my ratio by 18. 7 times 18 is 126. 8 times 18 is 144. And if I add 126 plus 144, I get my 270 total votes. At this point, I can then go back to the original question. How many votes did Aiden get? He was the 7, remember? So he got 126. All right, I liked this one. I thought this one was pretty simple, even though you did have to go through a couple steps. I rewrote this, so I got rid of x and I put a blank there. Half of an unknown number is 2/3, okay? Which would mean 1/2 and then times, so of is like a verbal of multiplication. So if I had a number and I multiplied it by a half, I would get 2/3. So I rewrote it again. 1/2 times an unknown number equals 2/3, which means if I want to get rid of my 1/2, I have to divide my 1/2, and therefore I would divide my 1/2 from 2/3. So now I wrote 2/3 divided by 1/2 equals my x, right? And so when I do that, I would multiply by the reciprocal, keep, change, flip. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. So I get 4/3 is my x. Now I can move on to this point. 4/3 is 1/3 of y. And when I write 4/3 is 1/3 of y, that means 4/3 times 1/3 is y, because we know of means multiplication. So 4/3 times 1/3 equals y. I don't have to change anything here because it's already in multiplication. I'm just going to multiply. I'm going to get 4 over 9. And 4 over 9 is in the simplest form, and therefore 4/9 is y. You may want to review that one if you need to. All right, this question, I like the realism of it. I have some friends who, I grew up with friends who were farmers, and they had horses, they had cows, they had pigs, chickens, and a cool pond that smelled terrible all the time, but we still swam in it. So the farm produces 875 bales of hay per year, and each bale of hay is 65 pounds. So you do 875 times 65, and you figure out how many pounds of hay they would have per year. And I did that here, and so it's 56,875 pounds of hay per year that they have to give to their horses. All right, so I kind of just move that to the side. Now, one horse would eat 20 pounds per day. So notice we went from per year to per day. So we need to understand how many days there are in a year, which of course is 365. And you're going to see that down here. What is the maximum number of horses the farm can feed per year? Enter in the box below. So I need however many horses at 20 pounds per day to equal less than 56,875 pounds per year. So I take my amount per year of pounds that I have, and I divide it by 365 to figure out how many pounds I have each day to give to horses. And that's 155.82 pounds each day that horses have to eat. Okay? Now, if that's how many pounds they have per day, and I know that there's 20 pounds per day for each horse, I can divide to find how many horses that would be. And I get 7.791. Now, let me ask you, can I have 7.791 horses? Can I have like 7 horses and then like a horse with 3 legs that's going to eat 0.7? No, I'm going to assume that all my horses have to be whole numbers. And this isn't 8. So therefore, I know 7 is the maximum. And I'm going to prove it over here because I always like to prove my answers. So if I had 7 horses at 20 pounds a day for 365 days, that would be 51,100 pounds of hay that I would need. And I have that. I've got 56,000. So I would have some excess hay. Now, if I went to 8 horses, let's say we had another horse at 20 pounds a day for 365 days, that would need 58,400 pounds of hay. And I don't have that. So if I had an 8th horse, I would run out of hay and somebody would get sick or die, and I don't want to be burying some dead horses. So 7 is the most amount of horses I can have. All right, so this one was pretty simple, but if we had X apples and we take away 40% of the apples, that's be 0.4 times X, which we could also say is 4/10 times X. That would be X minus 4/10 X, or 6/10 X, which is simply 6/10. Now, we're doing 1/3 of that, so 6/10 times 1/3 would give us our answer. And that gives us 6/30ths, and when you simplify both of these, you can divide by 2 to get 3/15ths, and then you notice, oh yeah, I could have just divided by 5. But divided by 3 gets you 1/5, and then that would be 1/5 of the apples. That's how many he would have, and that's how we find our answer there. All right, so surface area is when you look at a 3-dimensional figure, you're taking all the areas of the flat surfaces. You're not doing the volume where you'd multiply all 3 quantities. You're just going to find the area of this rectangle, which is going to be the same area as the other 4 rectangles, and then the area of this rectangle, which is going to be the same area as the rectangle on the other side. So 10 times 5 is 50, so that means we've got 4 50s, which is 200 square centimeters. And then we have 5 times 4, which is 20, and we would have 2 20s, which is 40. That gives us 240 square centimeters. Once we know the surface area, we can take 40% of that, which is 4/10. So we do 240 times 4/10, and of course you could probably just plug it into your calculator up there, but I like to show my work. And that would just be 240 over 1, which would be 240 times 4, which is 960, and then 10 times 1 is 10. Well, you can divide both of those by 10, leaving you 96 over 1, which of course any number over 1 is just that whole number. So our answer would have been 96 centimeters, not 200 like he wrote. Hey guys, that's it. I hope I answered all your questions. If you have any more, just leave some comments or message me on Schoology. Let me know what else I can do to help you. But those went over some pretty key things that we need to know in 6th grade: surface area, unknown variables. Again, if you have any questions, contact Mr. Enyart, and I will talk to you later. Have a good day.